Hi guys, welcome back to you and me. Thank you for all your nice words and wishes and all that in the last couple of weeks. I also just want to say I'm trying out a new setup, so let me know what you think in terms of the camera and the mic. I probably look like I'm like a little Harry Potter here or something. It looks real like I'm under the cupboard or something, but I actually think it's nice. It's kind of cozy and intimate, so I'm hoping it comes across like that. So for my first video back, I'm actually going to give you some updates on old cases that I've done. So for a lot of you, if you know, I'm doing the channel now like 3.5 years, and some of the cases have obviously had updates, thankfully, in those years. Well, good and bad updates, but we shall just get into it. There's just a couple. It's just to kind of keep you updated. Now, before I start, I'm going to ask that if you haven't already and you're familiar with my channel and you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. If you are new and you are enjoying the content, please subscribe, please like, all that jazz. I feel like I don't do it a lot, and I feel like I should start doing it more, like promoting myself, all that. I'm not really into like, but yeah, if you're liking the content, please subscribe, like, comment on the case and stuff. Share it with any true crime friends that you have. Because basically the way YouTube works is, if it sees you enjoying a video, it's like, oh, they enjoyed that video, maybe more people will like that video, and then they will share it more. So we're like close. I think we're just over 4.5. So it would be amazing to get to 5 and keep trying to build from there. So with all my rambling done, let's just get straight into the first update. So I think it was last year that I covered Frank McCann. He is the wife and baby killer. Basically, he was having an affair with like a special needs teen and got her pregnant. When I say having an affair, sorry, it wasn't an affair. He, assaulted her, took advantage, and she got pregnant, and he didn't want his wife to find out. So the next logical step to that is to kill her. So I will actually put all the links to these cases I'm talking about in the description, so that if you haven't, obviously now you'll have an update, but you can go back and then actually get the full story, because some of them are obviously a bit wild. So Frank. So I said before that he had like a strop when Liveline, I think it was, were talking about his case and, parole and stuff like that. Other prisoners in Arbor Hill were like, slagging him and stuff. And he like locked himself in his cell and he wouldn't come out and he wouldn't do anything that the prison officers were asking. And at that point he had a really cushy job, because he like was the gardener and, so he was out a lot in the grounds of Arbor Hill and stuff like that. I had pictures, I'll put up another picture so you can see him out. And basically, as punishment for his strop, he was sent to Mountjoy. So this was like in June 2021. So there's kind of 2 updates for this story. So the first part is that he was putting in an application for parole, as they all do. But in June 2023, kind of out of the blue then, he withdrew the application. And I think the reason he withdrew it is because of the second part, which is, and in October 2023, the 62-year-old made an application to be moved back to Arbor Hill. So it seems like he didn't realise how cushy he had it, and like Arbor Hill has basically been described as like a quiet nursing home, and especially someone who thinks they're never going to get out will want to spend their time here. And so perhaps he thought that if he was going through the rigmarole of a parole application, upsetting the victim's family, all of this, that would go against him then asking to be sent back to Arbor Hill if he knows he's not going to get out. Like his plan could even be go back to Arbor Hill and then again in a year, then start the process again once he's back in Arbor Hill of trying to get parole. However, a source says that this application is unlikely to be granted because of his behaviour when he had his strop. Okay, this time we are travelling all the way back to my second ever case. And this is Eamon Lillis, who murdered his wife, Celine Cawley. Again, I'm not going to really describe the cases too much because there's a lot obviously in them. That's why the videos are there. And he basically was only done for manslaughter. And when he got out, he didn't serve that long. And when he got out, he thought he would be able to like set up, home here again. Because, I've done my time and all this. But that kind of proved difficult. His daughter, Georgia, who was 16 when her dad killed her mum, had said that she would rather stick pins in her eyes than have to live with her dad again. Like, she has had no contact with him and she doesn't intend to have any contact with him. So he moved to the UK. So he went over to Southampton, where he had his sister living, and then from there he kind of obviously maybe got settled and then moved on somewhere else in the UK. But the main update is that he has a new love interest. However, she's not really a new love interest because she is the childhood sweetheart that he had before he went on to marry Celine Cawley. And their relationship was rekindled after he had been released. I don't have a name, but all I can say is people in general, but women, need to start having higher standards. I don't care if he was your childhood sweetheart. I don't care if he was the one who got away. He murdered another woman. He was done for manslaughter, fine. If you want to even say that, oh, he killed, and by manslaughter, another woman. A woman he was in a relationship with. I don't know what any woman would put themselves into that position. Lillis, who is now in his 60s, is also working as a graphic designer over there. And his little pals from back here are giving him work. A little bit on George as well. I had thought about doing this as a part on its own, and then I just hadn't, so I can put it in here now. So it's basically said that like when she was 16, like that, she essentially became an orphan. She lived in the family home with like a housekeeper until she turned 18, and then the housekeeper obviously moved out. She obviously has her own trauma and everything else to deal with, and she found that animals, and particularly horses, were a great therapy. So she actually set up a equine therapeutic riding centre. And this was all in the news because the place she was, I can't remember why, but she had to leave there, like they were closing, or the land or whatever they were selling it or something. And she didn't want to move too far because she has children who like come to her on public transport, and she didn't want to move too far because these children could have like additional needs and stuff, and it's just a lot for them. So through a whole like public kind of appeal and stuff, she was able to buy land, even like a larger land, close by, like very close by to where it originally was. So she was able to stay in the local area. The kids are still able to come. Everything. I'll put it up for you to just have a little look of. And yeah, that's just a little bit of good news on top of the Lilith news. And like after he was going to prison, he basically told her like, everything's okay, don't worry, everything's in order, I've sorted everything. And then it said like he gave her €600. Now it says he gave her €600 to like last for the years that he was in. Maybe that wasn't his intention. It was just kind of like listen, I have 600 cash on me or something. I'm not sure. But apparently even the note that he left essentially said like, black bins Tuesday, green bins Thursday, oh, and the dog needs like his worming vaccination or whatever. And that was essentially it. That comes from an independent article, and they quote Selena's sister as saying that. Right guys, Shaw and Evans, two British lads that came over here and started murdering. You can go check the full video. It's a long one, there's a lot in there. Geoffrey Evans died a couple of years ago there, and hopefully in pain, but he was in hospital, so probably not. And then so we have John Shaw, who went through a whole legal battle to be able to have 2 like outings a year. And because of COVID and all this jazz, there was a delay. But in May 2022, he finally got his first trip out. And it was said that he wanted to go off and, you know, have a little wander around Dublin city centre and stop and have a coffee and just take in the world, you know, from the cafe. So he got to do this. He was obviously followed by escorted by 2 plainclothes prison officers. Not a lot else on it. I haven't seen anything about his second release, his second day out or anything like that. He is still working in the computer shop, recycling old computer parts. It is said he's quite, a source says he's quite grumpy, keeps to himself. He does have a pet budgie. I did not know any of our prisoners were allowed pets. I'm going to give you a second there to have a guess what his name is. 1, 2, 3. Geoffrey. So yeah, he obviously argued. I'd say he argued that he's lonely. He's only had 1 family visit in the 46 years that he's been there. I would hope that was someone coming over to basically say, you're dead to me, you're no longer my brother, my son, whatever. Maybe he made the argument then for the budgie because that he has no one or whatever, because he obviously is good at the legal routes. So yeah, that's kind of it on him. Some good news for us all. John Crerar, who murdered Phyllis Murphy back in the late 70s. He wasn't caught down for 2 decades, for 20 years. So he went to prison old, and he's quite old, so he's 74 now. And he is suffering from serious lung disease. While he used to work and chat to others, it's said now that he has no energy and he can barely move. And it is said that he is, quote, waiting for God to take him. John, neither my God nor anyone else's God on this planet is coming to get you. People who worship Satan, their God might come for you. As he has never shown remorse for the crime, it is very unlikely for him to get temporary release. However, I do kind of think that by the time the end is coming, he's going to be released on compassionate grounds. Hopefully not, but I would say that that's what's going to happen. So yeah, that's just a bit of good news thrown in. Just a short one. So Ger O'Hara, who murdered Lisa Doyle, his fiancée, was named by the newspapers as the shoelace strangler because he basically strangled her while they were in bed with his arm, and then he took out his shoelace. Again, you can go back and watch it. Her sister, Angela Doyle Stewart, who has been very vocal on all of this about, like how the murderers kind of get a lot more than the families of the victims and stuff. Like, this will be his third time now in 2024 to apply for parole, and every time that happens, the families of these victims have to go through this whole rigmarole and write letters and all this stuff, and the murderers are allowed to read their letters. There's a whole thing to it, you can look it up. But she basically says that she would feel like there was a threat to her if he was released, but also to other women. As we know, and I discussed in the video, this wasn't the first time that he attempted this. He says that he did have urges to kill, and stuff like that just doesn't go away. There is no mention about whether he shows remorse for what he'd done, or, if he is kind of engaged in like the services, the therapy and things like that. However, this will be his third time, so we just have to hope that it's not third time's the charm. So lastly, guys, it is Mark Nash, who technically isn't a serial killer, but he committed, and I think he's the only one who has done this in Ireland, committed 2 different double murders over the space of a couple of months. So again, you can go back and look at that video, the Grange Gorman murders. So in May 2022, he applied to be transferred from Midlands Prison, which is more of a high security prison in Laois, up to Cushy Arbor Hill. But thankfully this was rejected. Now, I had mentioned that him and Graham O'Dwyer, who murdered Elaine O'Hara, had become little buds. They had a little romance going on, and it is said that they have drifted apart, so maybe he just couldn't stand to see his ex-friend around anymore and he needed space. However, in November just gone, he has applied to be transferred to a UK prison. So a lot of his family is in like the Huddersfield area in the UK, and he says that he doesn't get enough visits and stuff here because obviously they can't all travel over and stuff like that. And so his argument is that he wants to go over there. He has applied to the Department of Justice. The Department of Justice then goes to Garda and basically say, has he any outstanding charges that he need to go, that are coming up? And they'll answer whatever. Then they will go to the UK authorities and check if there are any charges that they have that he will be, crimes that he will be charged with if he goes over. And then it is basically up to Helen McEntee, the Justice Minister, to decide if he gets to go or not. Now, if he does go over, his life sentence will go to like a whole jail tariff or a whole prison tariff or something. It's basically the same thing like as life, and I think over there it really means life. It is thought, like when I read it, sources say like it's very likely he's going to die in prison because of obviously the crimes, but also I don't know how remorseful he is or how engaged he has come with the therapy and services and stuff, but it is said that he is still a danger to the community, so chances of him ever being released are unlikely. An extra little bonus part, which is an article I came across from 2015, but I didn't see it when I was covering the case originally, and it is a woman, Martina Courtney, who started visiting. She spent like 9 years visiting Mark Nash when he was in prison because she felt sorry for him. But how she came across visiting him was because her brother was in prison. Because her brother is Sean Courtney, the soldier, like he was in the Defence Forces, and essentially he murdered a woman by chance. She was asking for directions to him and his girlfriend, and he was like, oh yeah, I'll show you. And they dropped his girlfriend off first, and then he went to show her, but then instead he killed her. And he would say things like, oh, because she started laughing at me and he started saying these things and I snapped. But I just don't believe any of that. And I think he just took an opportunity. But it's just interesting that I don't know, it could be just me being very mean or something. But I think like if you grew up with a brother who's like that, of course you're going to feel sorry for someone like Nash. Another little interesting thing is an inmate in Arbor Hill, like a sex offender, basically said that there was a whole thing with Nash and Larry Murphy. So he was selling, the inmate A, he was selling a CD player, and both Nash and Murphy wanted it, and he sold it to Nash for €100. And then he says that Murphy then like grabbed him by the neck and was like giving out to him or getting very aggressive, and said to him, you sold it to him because you're afraid of him because he's killed, like because he's a killer. And he was like, but I've killed too. And there's the whole then thing, because every time someone comes out and who was an inmate where Murphy was, there's always a speculation and like, oh, he said this and he said that and all. So people are like, oh, but does that mean that he killed, or like did he kill many people, because Nash was a double killer, so does he mean he's a double killer, and all this. Yeah, that was just an extra little bit. Right lads, that's it for the updates in today's video. Let me know what you think of the updates. If you haven't already watched the videos, please go back and feel free to watch them. Bear in mind, some of them are from my first videos, so the quality is a bit different. Yeah, I'm hoping to record, I'm going to be recording another video today, and that'll be the next video after this. That's going to be an unsolved one. I've decided to focus on a few unsolved ones, just because, as I've said before, they're kind of the ones that I take the most interest in. So yeah, I hope you all had a wonderful Paddy's weekend, or Paddy's Day, whether you were here in Ireland or abroad. Today is Bank Holiday Monday, but if you're outside Ireland, it's probably just Monday. Thank you, as I said earlier, for the kind words and thoughts, and thank you, as always, for the support. Let's get to 5. So yeah, see you in the next video. Thanks. Bye.